I now give the floor to Pakistan.
President, at the outset, I would like to thank you for convening this important meeting of the General Assembly to discuss the use of the veto. The universal character of the General Assembly and its democratic decision-making gives this organ a level of legitimacy and credibility unlike any other organ of the United Nations system. The General Assembly has also proven that it can respond to crises by taking timely and effective decisions, particularly when the Security Council is unable or unwilling to act on matters of international peace and security, including due to the use of veto. The Security Council, which has primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, has often been paralyzed or incapacitated due to pursuit of narrow interests and the strategic rivalry between its permanent members, and that leads to misuse or abuse of veto. It thus prevents the Council from discharging its duties. And then we also are aware of the cascading effect of the veto that gives the permanent members unmatched influence and profile throughout the UN system. It comes as no surprise, therefore, and past and recent experiences have confirmed that the abolition or restraint on the use of veto will have to be an integral part of the reform of the Security Council. But as we know, the existing permanent members, and by the way, they are pretty much united on that. They are opposed to any change in the UN Charter that would chip away on their power or privilege as permanent members. And it is for this reason also that Pakistan, together with the Uniting for Consensus group, remains opposed as a matter of principle to the addition of any new individual permanent members on an expanded Security Council. More permanent members and more vetoes will only aggravate the problem, will multiply the likelihood of paralysis or inaction by the Security Council. So let us be clear, the problem cannot be the solution. President, various proposals have been advanced over the years concerning the veto, ranging from its abolition or limiting its use, and the alternative is status quo. We believe that the veto right of the existing permanent members should be abolished or at least severely restricted, and that the right of veto certainly must not be expanded. We understand the motivation of those who wish to find ways to moderate the use of the veto. And we note that their proposals are designed to reinvigorate the charter functions of the General Assembly and are not related to or impinge upon the IGN's consideration of Security Council reform. It is in that vein that Pakistan supported Resolution 76262, calling on the President of the Assembly to convene the Assembly within 10 working days after the exercise of a veto by one or more permanent members, and asking for a report on the rationale for such use of veto. We also understand that any measures adopted to restrict or restrain the use of the veto will have to be consistent with the relevant provisions of the Charter. President, the discussion of the veto, which preoccupies so many of us, has revealed certain realities. And one of the underlying central issues is the negative power of the veto, that is, the power to block. Pakistan believes that this can be better balanced by, on one hand, placing restrictions on the use of the veto, and on the other hand, by enhancing the number and role of the elected members of the Council through larger representation on the Council, and thereby changing the threshold for approval of decisions by the Council. That is, to make it more democratic and to serve as an effective check on the use of veto by the permanent members. So, currently, we have 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members, a ratio of 1 to 2. So you increase the elected members to 20, for example, and you have a ratio of 1 to 4. That will significantly change the balance of power in the Council in a democratic way, putting the power to approve or to block in the hands of the majority and not just a few. My delegation remains convinced that the final resolution of the issue of the veto will have to be found in an integral part of the reform of the Security Council. The question of the veto is one of the 5 interrelated clusters for Security Council reform in the intergovernmental negotiations, and the decisions on all 5 clusters will need to be adopted together in a comprehensive reform. For reasons perhaps prevailing in 1945, veto was perhaps considered necessary by the framers of the Charter at that time. However, times have changed, and this privilege, especially its misuse, has little justification today in the eyes of the majority of the membership. What we want is reform for all, privilege for none. I thank you.
Je remercie les distingués représentants du
I thank Pakistan.